Now's the time to plant out our first beginner's gardening bed. Welcome back to Shed Wars. I have this tomato plant here. It's actually two tomato plants in the one pot, but I'm going to plant them as one. It's called 42 days. So named because under ideal conditions, this can produce ripe fruit within 42 days from transplant. Now here in my climate, I don't expect it to produce fruit that fast. In fact, it might be double that time. I'm going to use a trowel to plant it because this being a new bed, I probably can't dig down very deep with just my hand. You can put tomatoes down really deep. And they'll produce roots along their stem. When you're transplanting, try not to disturb the roots. Or should I say, try to disturb the roots as little as possible. And this is something you'll be doing too whenever you're working on your bed. You'll be picking out rocks, and over time you'll have less rocks in your bed. Let's put the little tag in beside it. Now that'll take a while to grow up to any real size. So I have some radish seeds here that I'm going to plant in the area around the tomato. As a beginning gardener, let me get a stick. You're better off making a straight line across your bed, because when your crop first comes up, you'll see a straight line of tiny little plants that all look alike, and then you'll know that, okay, that's what I planted there. Now I recommend putting even the smallest of seed 4 inches apart, the rows 4 inches apart, because that makes it easier for you to weed. You can get your hand in between the rows. You're going to end up with 3 rows here. I made this thing because when planting out, I feel it's nice to be able to, I can lean in here and go all the way across the bed and set my seed, rather than having to set half from one side and half from the other. Now this is some radish seed that I saved, so I'm sure hoping that they grow. I'm actually putting them here fairly thick. Radish now, they'll be ready in like 20 to 25 days. And then you lightly brush the soil on top of them. I planned out this bed earlier today, and that's what this notebook is doing here. So we're going to plant Swiss chard now. If you look on the back of the packets of seed that you buy, it'll give you a little chart, and it says days to sprout, seed depth, seed spacing, plant spacing, and row spacing. days to sprout and seed depth, that's how deep you plant them and how long they should take to sprout. Seed spacing, you sow them tighter than what the final plant spacing will be, because you don't know what ones are going to sprout and how many plants you're actually going to get. Plant spacing for Swiss chard is 10 inches. That is the plant spacing in the row. Row spacing, it says here 18 inches. Row spacing is for farming, even market gardening, where you're using bigger equipment to get down between the rows to maintain the end for harvest. When you're in just a home garden, you can think about the square foot method of gardening, where you have a plant and then in a radius around it. So the plant spacing says 10 inches. That's from center to center, which means you take half of that for your radius. And within 5 inches of that Swiss chard plant, there should be no other plant. That means I can put the rows 10 inches apart, and when I thin them out, then I will thin them out to the final spacing of what looks to be a square foot gardening method. There's our last row of radishes. I can go 5 inches from there. Where did I put my stick? So do relatively straight across. And then another 10 inches. Once again, relatively straight across. Seed spacing is 1 inch, and considering that these are larger seeds, then I could probably put them actually 1 inch apart. And then cover them up. I have some thin pieces of board here that I can easily break, and I'll make markers for each of the rows. Swiss chard. Now the next thing we're going to plant is kohlrabi. They say it's a cross between cabbage and turnip. It's a very delicious plant. The kohlrabi variety is early white Vienna. And on the back, our plant spacing is 6 inches. So we need 3 inches to either side of each plant. For the Swiss chard, we need 5 inches to either side. So 5 inches plus 3 inches, that'll give you 8 inches. Approximately right there. Make a line straight across. Now we're going to do 2 rows of each crop that I have here. And we want to go another 6 inches for the other row. These seeds are little dark beads. It'll give you a seed spacing, but I find it very difficult with most of the home garden equipment to really put the seeds in an actual good spacing. So I try to sow them as thinly as I can, but you will invariably get seeds that are planted too close together, and we'll see that when they come up. COLH, COHL. RABI for that row. KOHL RABI for that row. Our next one on the plan is spinach. Spinach, I have King of Denmark here. Dates to sprout, seed spacing 1 inch, plant spacing 10 inches, row spacing 16 inches. So we're back to our 10 inches. We've got 3 inches for kohlrabi, 5 inches, so we're going 8 more inches. And then another 10 inches. Spinach is a fairly big seed as well, so I should be able to sow them at the 1 inch seed spacing. So right from the very edge of the bed to the other very edge. Don't worry about dropping an extra seed here and there. Seeds are cheap. And now we have turnip right here. Purple top, white globe, 55 to 60 days. I would plant rutabaga, but rutabaga takes a long time. And so for this demonstration, I'll just do turnip. The other thing is, turnip are much smaller. And so whereas The plant spacing for turnip is 4 inches. For rutabaga, it's 8 inches. So we've got our spinach, which needed 10 inches, so 5 inches either side. And our turnip, which needs 4 inches, so that's another 2 inches either side. And we're out to 7 inches. That's right there. And go another 4 inches. And we have another row. These are relative to the kohlrabi, as I mentioned, and being that they are little beads, they are a little easier to spread out in a line just by rolling your thumb and finger back and forth, and the beads will roll out between them. Next we have lettuce. Just a single row because I don't have many seeds here for lettuce. It's prize head lettuce. It wants a spacing of 8 inches. So that gives us out another 6 inches, because 2 for that and 8 for the lettuce. I can put that row in right there. Not only do I not have many seeds, they are so tiny, so they're so very difficult to actually sow. You're going to have to pinch them in between your thumb and finger like this and slowly sow them out. So now these next two is a experiment for my climate. Last year I did direct sow Jacob's cattle beans and I've got a crop. So this year all of my beans up the other plot, if you've been watching my videos, you'll know that I put them out as transplants. In this bed we're going to put several seeds across here, 1 foot away from the prize head lettuce. Actually, they need a foot, so it's 6 inches from the prize head lettuce plus the 4 inches, so that's 10 inches right there. So now I'm just putting a line across here just to know that I put them in a straight line. Beans, they're very big, so you just put them down one at a time. Lay it on the ground, poke it in. 3 inches over, poke it in. And if they all come up, then every second one will pull up. This next one is cucumber bush crop. When you read the direction for cucumber, they say to plant them in little hills, 3 seeds to a hill, once the soil has warmed. Now, in my climate, the soil is warming, you're waiting until July. The mid-June, I'm thinking it would be a good experiment to see if I can sow them in mid-June and get a crop, because they are very fairly fast maturing crop, the cucumber, the bush crop are. So we're going to move down another foot, and we're going to plant several seeds across the I gotta make sure I do this right, actually. I want to put my potatoes right there. So I need 6 inches for the potatoes. So I'm going to go down 5 inches then, because I'm going to put some potatoes in here as well. So these 2 rows here, they're an experiment. Just lay some seeds out, say 3 inches apart. You just poke each one in. Cover it up. Now this next thing I have here, six, so just for fun, I'm going to put a row of beets, because the cucumbers are vines. We'll have to decide what we're going to do with them when they grow. I'm going to put a row of beets in right there. These are Detroit Dark Red Supreme. Detroit Dark Red. Now, I have 3 red potatoes here that the highs are starting to grow on, so they shouldn't take that long to come up. And across a 3-foot bed, that's all you can put in for potatoes. So I'll put that one right there. I'll put that one in the middle. And I'll put that one right there. And right on the very end, I'm going to plant some peas. For a trellis, I'm going to use this old piece of metal I had laying around. It's actually the front to a industrial egg laying operation where the birds are caged. I find when you're planting peas, you want to put the trellis in, plant your peas beside it. For this trellis, it's 16 inches wide. Now the question is, can I put them down well enough that they'll stay. Yes, I can. I'm going to use these plant ties to attach it to the trellis. And then I'll take my peas, which are little marvel, very snap pea. And I plant those 2 inches apart. That's the peas planted. And just for fun, I'm going to put some black oil sunflower seeds on either side of that trellis. Make sure you've watered this bed until it's well soaked. And if you've gotten this far, you're a gardener. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Come back next Sunday for another Shed Wars. And we'll have another interesting thing for a new gardener to learn. See you in the next video.